Well, welcome everybody. I'm going to make a few announcements first, but this is the Living Room Online Literary Series that I'm hosting, and we started it on Easter Sunday, and it seems to be going quite well. I'm ML Liebler, for those who don't know, in the internet space sphere. The program is sponsored by Poets and Writers, the Detroit Writers Guild, which I direct, Wayne State University Press, and the Book Beat. So most of these authors' books can be ordered through Book Beat, which is in Oak Park, and I'm sure they're struggling and trying to stay afloat. So if there's any books that you need and you can call them and order it, you can either pull up and they'll throw them in your trunk, or they'll bring them out to the curb as they're going through this pandemic right now. So if you can buy stuff from Carrie and Colleen, please do. Also, the next Living Room series, it's actually going to be on June the 21st. Reason being, it would normally be Father's Day, but it's Father's Day on the 14th. So we're going to do the 21st. We will have Charlie Baxter from Minneapolis, Minnesota, Laurel Blossom from Brentwood in Los Angeles, and Jack Riddle from, I think, well, maybe Grand Rapids, but I know he was in Holland. So Jack Riddle will be there with us. And then also we'll be looking for an all-access cafe to go online in July and mid-July or so. And also we are going to go forward with the St. Clair Shores Literary Walk #2. We did it last year, and we're going to try it online and see how it works out. But we'll have a bunch of East Side poets and musicians and stuff on it, and we'll do it through either Zoom or through the St. Clair Shores television website. They have their own TV thing. So that's coming up. The All Access Cafe will for sure have Edward Hirsch is going to join us, and from New York, and Denise Sedman all the way from Westland, which is a place I've only been to once. I saw it once. It seemed like I had to pack a lunch to go out there and take hay fever pills, but I found it. And look at Don in the sun. Good idea, really. So anyway, any questions?
Sounds good.
Oh, Roger's there. And Roger is spelling Nancy so she can go get another cup of coffee. And I gee, that's like kind of like a romper. I see Tim, and I see Mary Jo, and I see Miss Barnes, Patricia's there, and Carolyn. I guess I could name the whole audience. So at any rate, just as a quick announcement before we get started, Frankie was gonna play us a piece on the piano to start, and then we'll hear from Lolita, and then Carolyn and Frankie, Carolyn reading some poems from her new book, Accidents, and Accident. And Joel Green is ill. He texted or messaged me about 10 to 1 and said he just didn't feel very good at all and didn't feel like he could perform. He's more of a performance slam poet. So we'll move forward. And Frankie, you wanna start us out?
Sure.
So this is Frankie the K from Black Hat. Him and Carolyn have worked together as a songwriting team, but Frankie is a fantastic keyboard player. I know many people on here have heard him live before. So I asked him if he'd just open us up with a song, and then we'll go to Lolita. So Frankie, take it away.
Dreams you find for those who sleep. But when you become awake, you find the world about to deep. And close your eyes for the dream's sake. Either can believe it's wrong, none of them can be mine. Some dreams live in the dark, some walk in the sunshine. I was walking through the world, step by step from nowhere. I'm not sure how it unfurled. Realized you were always there. You can't believe it's wrong. None of them can be mine. Some dreams live in the dark, some walk in the sunshine. Music playing in my head. Suddenly was amplified. Deep in mind, what you said, making me feel good inside. You can't believe it's wrong. None of them can be mine. Some dreams live in the dark, some walk in the sunshine. Saddest thing about this man, well, I once walked with you, like the hourglass is sand. Passed away, it was not true. Either can believe it's wrong, none of them can be mine. Some dreams live in the dark, some walk in the sunshine. Either can believe it's wrong, none of them can be mine. Some dreams live in the dark, some walk in the sunshine.
All right.
Thank you, thank you.
I thought I unmuted everybody, did I? So you could clap.
All right.
All right, now shut up. Let's see here. Okay, I guess I'm just stunned. I see Tyrone Williams from Cincinnati in the shot here, and I haven't seen him in a long time. So let me look at him again. He's so good looking.
I haven't seen him.
Oh, there he is, right there. All right.
Hi, Tyrone.
Yeah.
Hey, Lolita, how you doing? Hey, ML.
Okay,
Hey.
God, it's great to see you.
I
Great
know.
to see you guys too.
Well, we'll have Tyrone on. Tyrone is a language poet, so no.
No.
I'm kidding. You know, seeing you though, we should also try to do a respect thing, and we could do it now. We can do it online from all over the place from the book. So I wanted to just give a little bit of background. I'm going to do this from memory for Lolita Hernandez. Lolita and I hooked up at Wayne State in the probably early 80s. And at that point, she already had a degree from the University of Michigan and was getting another degree from Wayne State. And then she went on to get an MFA as well after that, while all the time working at the Cadillac factory, the Cadillac plant. She started as a poet. I published a little book of her poetry a long time ago. And then she became this great fiction writer. So she's got 2 collections of short stories that you should look into if you don't have them. Autopsy of an Injun, and is the one from, I want to say Coach Light, but it's Coffee House Press in Minneapolis, who they're struggling too right now, as everybody is. And then the other one is from the Made Michigan series, which is called Making Callaloo in Detroit. Great collection. She's from a Trinidad background, and she sometimes even writes about my new favorite sport, cricket, in her stories. And she taught at the University of Michigan. She's retired now, and she's coming to us, as you can see, live from sunny Las Vegas. Please welcome Lolita Hernandez.
Thank you. This is exciting to be part of this series. I probably spent the better part of yesterday in front of the TV watching our nation burn. So I'm a bit edgy over all that. So actually, I managed to work myself into the edgiest story, I think, or one of the edgiest stories I have. It's not a family story. There's a lot of cussing in it. And it's out of the Callaloo collection. It's called Sometimes You Leap, Sometimes You Fall. There's 2 epigraphs. One is from Jamaica Kincaid's The Autobiography of My Mother. My mother died at the moment I was born, and so for my whole life, there was nothing standing between me and eternity. And the other is from Terence Trent D'Arby, If You Go Before Me. One day in spring, a question fell and went straight through me. Do bleeding angels sing when close to tears? It sort of reminded me of George Floyd calling for his mother. From where she stood at the smoke-yellowed window of the interrogation room on the 13th floor of the downtown police precinct, the gull looked like a big dry leaf or crumpled paper bag swirling on the ground as if caught in an isolated air disturbance, a mini tornado, funneling directly from her tear-filled right eye. She closed that eye using the left for vision. Then she could see clearly that the gull was pulling on a piece of plastic like a dog tugging at rawhide. It appeared to her aggressive, fearless, absorbed. It fought with the plastic in the middle of the street as cars zoomed north and south of it. Only occasionally did its head bob up to scan the area for competing gulls. With each passing car, her left eye automatically shut tight, then opened to find the bird still wrestling with the plastic. Way to go, guy. I bet you ain't even afraid of the night. It was easy to become lost in the gull's motions. What else was there to do after 2 detectives have had their way with you? After their probing questions, why this, why that? Who knows the why of anything? One detective big and black as an ace and bald-headed, the other slight and white, interchangeable as good guy and bad guy. Okay, Ms. Lady, what do you know about the murder of Joe Blow from Dearborn Heights the other night? You remember him, don't you? She didn't respond. Instead, her head rolled right and left as light from the rising sun climbed into the room and peeked past the bodies of the detectives who both stood directly in front of her. Just then their bodies shifted, each detective moving a few steps toward the side of the table, and for a brief moment her eyes were riveted by the beauty of the muted sunrise filtering through the grease-stained window. Sun bothering you? Your eyes are made for the night, right? Well, where were you the night he died? Who were you with? Had you ever been with him before? I was never with him. I'd never seen him before. Yeah, right. And so on and so on. Why this? Why that? Suddenly the white detective said, look, bitch, we got witnesses who say that they saw you with him. Then they both left the room as abruptly as they had entered an hour before them. Blam, the door shut. She immediately spun her chair around to face it, waiting for their return. She supposed that they would. After all, she had waited half the night alone in the interrogation room for them. Surely they had more questions. She began concentrating on the many dirt smudges on the door in order to distract her from thinking about their return. One smudge, located almost dead center, was long like a snake, but with wings like a dragon. Even a plume of pink drifted up from where she imagined the dragon's nose to be. Below it and to the left, she saw her mother's full image suspended with yellow daisies in her long, dark brown hair. Her arms were outstretched as if waiting for her sweet little girl to jump into them. This was just the way her mother looked the last time she saw her 20 years ago when she was sick. I'll be back for you, baby. I'll be back. And she gave a toss of her head right to left, causing her curly hair to swish right to left. I'll be back for you, baby, the natural mother said, while the foster mother held the 6-year-old firmly by the shoulders. Christ, how many times have I seen those detectives cruising the corridor? How many times? They never stopped me before. Actually, one time they had. The black detective was behind the wheel. The white one talked. If she were black, perhaps it would have been the other way around. So how's business today? I ain't got no business unless you got some. He looked over at his partner with a wry grin, then at her. Come on, man, she said, leaning into the window. $5. That's all I can make. That's all. I can make it worth your while, baby. How about both of you for $7.50? My Saturday special. Get your funky ass out of here. Come on, man, I need the money. They sped off, burning rubber, right down the middle of the corridor. Her lips curled scornfully while she blew a kiss to the retreating car. This memory, the kiss to the retreating car, elicited at first short puffs of air from her diaphragm, then recognizable chuckles, then full-blown side-splitting laughter, right there in the interrogation room. Christ, didn't those two take off like bats out of hell? Suddenly she heard the footsteps of a lone walker approaching the only door to the interrogation room. Her fingers gripped the edge of the chair seat. Her left eye rolled to the side and waited for the door to open. It didn't. The footsteps proceeded past the door, down the corridor beyond her hearing. Still, her left eye remained fixed on the door, waiting for the knob to turn. Then she began singing softly. Blue heaven, you know just what I am here for. You heard me say that I prayed for someone I could call my own. These few words, remembered from a song she used to hear on the radio as a child, were enough to fill both eyes with tears. She wiped her eyes on the edge of the plain gray, oversized sweatshirt she wore over the black spandex pedal pushers. Why, Mama? Why didn't you return? She took a deep breath. Oh, grow up. With this admonishment to herself, she scanned the room for Kleenex or napkins or any piece of paper for her nose. Finding none, she blew into the underside of the same sweatshirt edge she had just used to wipe her eyes. Why did they have to call me a bitch? Then hell, what difference does it make now? Her attention shifted back to the window. She walked over to it and pressed her forehead against the lower pane, adding her body oil to the streaks of grease and dirt that were by now magnified by the full force of the sun. Something was developing across the street at the building, advertising Ernie, the bail bondsman. A white man with a dark suit and curly hair conversed with a hefty black woman wearing a hat and carrying a large purse. The woman dabbed her eyes occasionally. A mother. He was a lawyer. Her two teenage daughters gesticulated wildly at times. One or the other of them would threateningly inch up to the lawyer's face. He didn't budge. Finally, the woman held her right arm out like a traffic cop. Everyone was still for a brief moment. Then she could tell that the lawyer said something because his head leaned toward the woman, then the building. Another brief moment of calm, and the quartet entered the front door. The gull still tore at the plastic, oblivious to the drama at the curb to its left in front of the bail bondsman building. By this time, traffic had increased. From the 13th floor, cars and people looked like dolls, moving aimlessly to and fro. Her eyes began darting this way and that in an attempt to keep up with the chaos on the street below. How brave that bird is. All alone in the middle of the street. All those cars, no other gulls around. I'll be back, her mother had said, but she never returned. After some time had passed, she asked the foster mother why her mother hadn't returned. Because your mother is a whore. She can't keep you with her, the foster mother said. What's a whore? The first one she met on the corridor told her, you gotta get yourself some hair, girl. Then you can do whatever you want. You can be whatever you want. So she studied every old prostitute in the street, full face, looking into their eyes, feeling their hair. One day she spotted one parading back and forth on a corner of the lower end of the corridor. 3 ragged daisies adorned the prostitute's scraggly brown ponytail. Oh no, what happened? Oh, sorry about that. One day she spotted one parading back and forth on the corner of the lower end of the corridor. 3 ragged daisies adorned the prostitute's scraggly brown ponytail. You must be my mother. The old prostitute studied her for a moment as if to determine whether or not she was joking. Then, you're crazy. Get away from me. I don't know you. Later, while working her own corner at the other end of the corridor, she told a prostitute friend, also working that corner, I met my mother. She said that she loves me. Every day she returned to the same spot at the lower end of the corridor where the old prostitute paraded up and down the curb. I wear my hair like that too sometimes. I must be your daughter. I said, get away from me. On another day, why didn't you return for me? I've been waiting all these years for you. Yet another day, God, I know you're my mother. I just know it. Why are you picking on me, you crazy Polak bitch? Get the hell away from me, understand? You ain't mine. How many times had she heard that word? 15, 1,000, yet an old prostitute, a toothless hag, her tits sagging to her waist like water-filled balloons, called her a bitch, and the word sounded different. Have you ever pondered a situation in your life for hours or days or even weeks, reviewing the same moment over and over, the same nodal point at which your life could have turned in another direction, You could be a CEO right now. Right now. You could be a Hollywood star. You could be a happy, respectable homemaker with regular beauty shop appointments and 2.5 kids. Have you ever studied a moment in your life in detail like that, asking yourself why such and such happened? Or why did you do this and that? If only you had thought things through then, responded differently. If only, you ask yourself why, until you have sucked every possible bit of comprehension out of the situation and your head drops to meet your chest and you find yourself too close to the wall and your head hits, you raise your head, drop it again because you want to bury your thoughts in your chest, sink the whys into your heart, but still you are too close to the wall. Again, your head hits. This happens again and again until you ask yourself, why? Why can't I even bury my head in my chest? Your head falls against the wall again and again and again until a knot full of pus of why forms on your forehead. Surely you understand how she was against the window asking herself, why? But a window isn't a wall. No one was looking up when she fell. Everyone was either at the corner crossing the street or entering a building or looking side to side for a cab. No one saw her enter the corridor from the 13th floor to the sidewalk, her body twirling like a ballerina, her hands outstretched, pushing the warm spring air away from her body. No one saw the pale yellow pearlescent sun or heard the strains of blue heaven that she hummed to the sky. Shards of glass from the interrogation room window greeted her on the ground, embedding themselves in her skull. Next, the seagull came over to her body on the sidewalk. The gull watched round and round, walked round and round her, even as curious pedestrians began to gather. Several uniformed police officers and the two detectives who had questioned her ran down the steps of the precinct and charged into the crowd. One said after seeing the bloody gray top and spandex pants, "Goddamn bitch must have leaped." You know how it is when someone falls 13 floors on any building, the noise, the confusion, the near hysteria of some of the onlookers, the cold curiosity of others. The older woman and her daughters were just leaving the building where the bail bondsman's office was located. They rushed across the street to join the knot of onlookers. She was still alive, but by then her head was nearly flat and on its way to becoming big as the steering wheel of a city bus. The woman put her arms around each one of her girls, who both nestled their head in her neck. "Lord, Lord, Lord," she said. Mm, mm, mm. The officers began yelling for the crowd to stand back. There was a disorderly scuttle of feet from the scene. The gull wandered back to the plastic in the middle of the street. By this time, the ambulance siren clearly sounded. With a loud squawk and a furious flap of its wings, the gull flew off, leaving the plastic bag containing half a ketchup-soaked hot dog bun. The teen hanging on to the right shoulder of the woman spotted the bird moments before it squawked, then saw what it left behind as it ascended. "Oh, mama, look at that nasty shit that gull was eating." "Watch your mouth, girl. You know I don't allow no cussing." "Sorry, mama." After briefly removing her thumb for her mouth, the left side teen said, "Well, say what you want, girl. I'm hungry myself. It's been a long morning." "Lord, Lord, Lord," said the mother as she pulled the girls closer to her. "How can you have an appetite at a time like this?" Thank you.
Okay, so Lolita Hernandez, that's What's the name of the? Is there a name for the novel yet? You gotta unmute. Does anybody read lips?
Great,
got it.
I got it. No, that wasn't from the novel, but it's the name of the novel is Felipe and Dahl in Search of the Garden of Love. If anybody knows a nice agent who wants it, it's a long, long novel, but I like it.
Wow, fantastic. So her two books that are in print, I'm sure they're even on the shelf right now at BookBeat, which is, for those who may not know where it's at, it's just off of 696 at Greenfield, heading towards 11 Mile. There's a shopping center there. And the BookBeat is like the best independent bookstore around. They can order anything, but they have such a unique collection as well. So shout out to them. Next up is Caroline Mong. She's going to kind of do a performance slash read some poems from perhaps her new book. Introduction, so those who might not know her here, she is a professor and a poet. She's a professor and also the head of the English department at Wayne State University. She teaches creative writing, American literature. She's the editor of the collected poetry of Evelyn Scott and author of this fantastic book called Mosaic of Fire, the work of Lola Ridge, Evelyn Scott, and Charlotte Wider and Kay Boyle. Her poetry publications include the volumes The Sleeping, What Remains, and then 3 chapbooks, Cures and Poisons, Greatest Hits with Pudding House, and Accident, which is the new book from Alice Green and Company, I believe, in the Ann Arbor area. Her poetry's been in the Bear River Review, Third Wednesday, Peninsula Post, and 1111. Please welcome Caroline Mong.
Thank you. I think that what we agreed to do, Frankie the K is here, Frank Koszelski, my spouse, and we are gonna sing one song, and then I'll read a couple of poems, and then sing another maybe 2 or 3 songs, and that'll be our performance. But go take it away, Frank.
All right, this is one of ML's favorite songs, so. The birds they sang at the break of day. Start again, I heard them say. No love on what has passed away, all what has yet to be. You know the wars will be born again. No holy dove be caught again. Love brought soul and caught again. The dove is never free. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. We ask for sign. The signs were sent. The bird betrayed. No marriage spent. No widowhood of every government. Signs for all to see. Can't run no more with all this crowd. While the killers in our business said the plans out loud. But they've summoned up a thundercloud. They're gonna hear from me. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. is a crack in everything. That's what I like it said. Can't run no more with the lawless crowd, while the killers in high places say their praise out loud. But they've summoned up a thundercloud. They're gonna hear from me. You can add up the parts, but you won't have the sum. You can strike up the march. There's no drum. Every heart to love will come, but like a refugee. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That's a love thing. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There's a crack in everything. That's a love thing. That's all I can say. That's all I can say.
Thank you, Frank.
There you go.
Thank you, Lolita, for your unforgettable and heartbreaking story. I'm going to read a little bit from Accident, which came out in 2019 from Alice Green and Company. And the book is about loosely a motorcycle accident that Frank experienced. And he very graciously allowed me to write about him, which I don't know why anybody would let me do that, but he did. I'm going to read about maybe 6 short poems.
Carolyn, there's a request to turn your mic up, the volume.
Okay, I can speak a little louder. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that feedback. This is a poem called Protective Gear. Remember when we bought the helmets? I mock sliced my finger with the credit card as we weighed the price. We didn't know him, but he said, that will contain the mess. The opaque language of force is written in the scrapes, the missing faceplate, the lining streaked by blood. You must have flown a distance. I'm lost in the story it tries to tell, this battered thing, doing what it was supposed to do. The dangers of an early spring. Before the bees arrived, poppies bloomed in your head. Daffodils wobbled gape-mouthed, dirt on their torn chins. When I first saw you, you called me sweetie. Each rib cracked in its bed of flesh. Shifter toes crumpled in spite of steel. Your neck not yet released. Are you staying? Asked the nurse. What she did not say. Some sweeties walk away when the man, what's left, can't find the right name. Thrown back. At the pier, I witnessed an impromptu kettle of turns, their clicks and plunges, each pairing a work in progress, a tournament of spring. Hovering, sighting, diving, presenting the wriggling catch to another. Somewhere an obscure score was kept, the colony for now claiming the still empty slips. You can tell a lot about a fisherman by what he throws back. I skipped to avoid the shining minnows on asphalt, rejected by the man who propped belled poles against the wall. Scattered shards of mirror around the spread umbrella trap. Be careful. Since the crash when I almost lost you, I have not been the same. Today I waited for you near the picture window. My heart shattered and reformed the instant you stepped off the curb. From my angle, it looked like death. That custom van. I could imagine the aged shag carpet, the bucket seats, all that chrome. But you just walked across a little late, talking to yourself. The pain between us is thin and transparent. I imagined the phone in my hand, dialing the short number, fumbling for the address, barely fulfilling my duty to be articulate. One last one before we sing again. Our love reminds me of bugs. We called them love bugs, kissing bugs, or honeymoon flies, names which sound seductive except for the screens shielding grills of the cars from their wet mess. They flew ass ends linked, cheerful orange spots on their heads, smashing into windshields together. I think of us when I see the alder flies. We've seen them swoop the sky, a pixelated scrim of their sincere invitations. The wheels of the Honda slip a bit, the road felted with their writhing. You told me that as a child you tied a string around a June bug. It flew calmly in circles, affable, accepting its new arbitrary circumference. When I hear the first cricket, I get pre-lonely, irrevocable sound, a metronome of finitude. It's funny because this book was, a lot of the poems are about this time of year, so it's kind of right on time that way. Thank you very much. We're gonna play a few songs. Thanks, Greg.
Everybody, clap. Look at that. Yeah. Even those people who are hiding in the shadows for whatever reason.
Especially the people hiding in the shadows.
Oh,
Okay, so.
like my students, afraid to come out.
No, they're not afraid.
What would you like to hear, my
Do you
dear?
want to play Blackbird or Matthew Said, or
Whichever.
Blackbird and then Matthew Said, and then we'll stop with Let Me Sing.
Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to arrive. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to be free. Blackbird fly, blackbird fly into the light. singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and look see all your life. You were only waiting for this moment to be free. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and look see all your life. You were only waiting for this moment to be free. Blackbird fly, blackbird fly, into the light of the dark like night. Not Blackbird.
Thank you.
We had to do a Beatles song. There's a certain person in the room that likes Beatles, so.
You want to do maybe Have You Ever Seen the Rain, and then what Matthew said, and then I'll close us out.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll
You've got it open right there. Toby.
do everything what makes you happy. Someone told me long ago, there's a calm before the storm. I know it's been coming for some time. When it's over, so they say, it'll rain a sunny day. I know, shining down like water. I wanna know, have you ever seen the rain? I wanna know, have you ever seen the rain? Coming down on a sunny day. Yesterday and days before, sun is cold and the rain is hot. I know, been that way for my time. Till forever on it goes, to the circle, fast and slow. I know, it can't stop, but I wonder. I wanna know, have you ever seen the rain? I wanna know, have you ever seen the rain? Coming down on a sunny day. Yesterday and days before, sun is cold and rain is hot. I know, been that way for my time. Till forever on it goes, through the circle, fast and slow. I know, it can't stop, but I wonder. I wanna know, have you ever seen the rain? I wanna know, have you ever seen the rain? Going down on a sunny day. I wanna know, have you ever seen the rain? Coming down on a sunny day. Have you ever seen the rain? Song originally done by Creedence Clearwater Revival and then revived by another guy, piano player, who I'm blanking on his name. But anyhow, are we doing another song?
One more, Matthew said.
It's an original song. Very appropriate to our times, I think.
Yeah.
I think so.
Talking to people, he's so unkind. How can they have such a mind? Don't they know there's poor all around? My blood is shaking more and more ground. Matthew said, I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I had no shelter and you said, come on in. And you said, come right in. And instead, I had a job. I was late and you made me pay. I was poor and you turned away. Blame me for my plan every day. Matthew said, I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I had no shelter and you said, come on in. And you said, come right in. If I had a pint and you had a quart, would you still think you came up short? How could you say how could you come home feeling fine? I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I had no shelter, but you said, come on in. And you said, come right in.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thanks, Frank.
Are we done?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
So thank you again, Carolyn Mon and Frankie the K, Frank Kiltowski. They're grouped together as Black Hat. I just messaged some stuff some websites and stuff. Carolyn Maughan, M-A-U-N, Carolyn with an O, O-L-I-N-E, has a website, and you can make contact with her on her books and her research as well. And Lolita Hernandez has one, which is lolitahernandez.com. I put them both in the chat area. And the book beat is thebookbeat.com. And let's see, also in the chat, Doreen O'Brien put up the phone number. So it's easy to find on the internet too. So thank you, Lolita Hernandez, and thank you, Caroline and Frankie the K, and thanks to all of you for taking a little time out to see this. The next Living Room online literary series program will be June 21 at 2 p.m. and it will feature Charles Baxter and Jack Riddle from the west side of Michigan and Laurel Blossom from Los Angeles. And then there'll be more programs coming on because, as we've all kind of agreed, for the most part, nobody's going out, as my drummer put it, Diane's husband, until a vaccine is found. So we'll have plenty, and we may just continue the Living Room series online anyway, even so. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Let's have a round of applause. You can unmute. Okay, see you. Oh, I wanted to mention, I see Ozzy Rivera, great guy, great artist and musician and all around person. Just saw him on the screen. And Ozzy is such a great community person. I once called him early in the morning to come over to my daughter's school at Cesar Chavez and to bring his kunga, and we'd do some poetry and music. And sure enough, within a short time, Ozzy was there. So Ozzy's everywhere.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, there he is. I haven't seen him in a while. Okay, so we'll see you back. We're going to do an all-access cafe with Ed Hirsch and Denise Sedman and others online in July. We're going to do the St. Clair Shores Lit Walk online in July. So we'll get all that out. If you're watching this and you don't, you're not on the mailing list, just send a message through either. I do have a Facebook page for this called the Living Room Online Series or something like that. You'll find it. Or my Facebook. Get your email to me somehow. And I'll put you on the list so you know when all these events are happening, because we'll have a lot of really good ones this summer. Okay? Thanks, everybody.